Pica Poco Kitchen. Today we're making frijoles charros or cowboy beans. Arre! Frijoles rancheros or cowboy beans or rancher beans are an icon of Mexican gastronomy. They have an origin story in the fields, in the farmland, in the countryside, where ranchers or cowboys already enjoyed beans. Beans are very nutritious. They have vitamins and minerals like iron, calcium, phosphorus, folic acid, and many more. They are filling on their own. However, they wanted to make a dish that was heftier and just more richer and will provide them with the energy that they needed for the day. So they decided to incorporate extra ingredients and, of course, some meat that will make this dish what we love and enjoy today. Of course, everywhere in Mexico you will find different variations, and not just from the meat that is used to add on to the beans, but also the beans itself. Some people like to use bayos, some people like to use flor de mayo, black beans, pinto beans. So as you can see, if you, like myself, are a lover of beans, you can create your own version of this amazing hefty dish that will serve you as a camp food or just a nice, enjoyable dinner. So let's get to it. I'm gonna start with the beans since they are gonna take longer to be ready. I have here 1 cup of dry pinto beans. I love to use pinto beans because they're milder in flavor and they're also on the smaller size, which gives them a little bit of a faster cooking time. I always have them around, so this is what I'm gonna be using. But I want you to check out something. This is 1 cup of dry beans, and over here I have the exact same amount, but the only difference is that these ones have been soaked overnight. And yes, you can cook your beans straight from dry, but soaking them overnight comes with benefits. First of all, you're gonna reduce the cooking time, they're gonna have a better texture, and they're gonna cook more evenly. But it also helps to break down the sugars, which makes them more digestible, aka less farty. As well as it reduces the lectine levels in the beans, which also help to reduce the enzyme inhibitors, which stop you from taking in all the nutrients from the beans. I'll be using my pressure cooker to make them. That's my preferred method, but of course, if you like to use your stove, do that. I'm gonna be using my 1 cup of soaked and rinsed dry beans with more or less 3 to 4 cups of water, making sure that there's plenty water on top of them. I'm just gonna keep it simple with 1/4 of an onion, and in this case I'm going for 3 garlic cloves because they're quite tiny. Salt and pepper. Normally when I do beans for refried or just to have beans prepared at home, I like to use epazote. In this case, because I'm using pinto beans, I'm gonna keep that out. If you're using black beans, go ahead and add a little bit of epazote. I am trying to avoid the competition of flavors of epazote with the meats. But if you have black beans, because they have a stronger taste to them, then the epazote kind of balances. But if you love epazote, of course, put it in. I'm just gonna skip it for this time. So I'm gonna cook my beans in my pressure cooker for 22 minutes with the seal on, and then I'm gonna let it natural pressure release for other 20 minutes. Since in the end they're gonna finish cooking with the rest of the ingredients in the stove. While my beans are cooking, let's talk about the rest of the ingredients. Over here, I have 2 large roma tomatoes. I have a quarter of an onion plus 2 garlic cloves that I'll be finely dicing. And everything is gonna get cooked in some bacon fat. So I have here 6 ounces of bacon that I've chopped. So make sure to get a nice smoky bacon with a good amount of fat. I will be also adding to the mix 5 ounces of wieners. In this case, there are 3 wieners, not those wieners, regular beef wieners that I'll be chopping as well. And I will be also using 5 ounces of chorizo. Because the chorizo has enough fat itself, I will be cooking this on the side so I can strain as much of the fat and just use the meat for the dish because, like I said before, the fat is gonna come from the bacon. And in terms of extra meat, I will be using 3 ounces of ham. In this case, I'm just using deli Black Forest ham because that's the one I have and that's the one I'll like the most. But if you prefer, you can use a thicker cut of ham, any other kind of ham, or just like in some places, some people like to use pork chops or even some pork meat that is previously cooked and very, very finely shredded. So it's up to you to which ingredients you invite to your party, but this is what I'll be using. So let's get this thing done. Here's my chorizo out of the casing in a medium heat pan. I'm gonna make sure to break it apart and cook it well. Since this one is store-bought, different to when I make it at home, which by the way, I have a video on that, it sometimes contains hard pieces of fat, and by breaking it down, that allows me to fish them out. Here is my chorizo well cooked, and this is the fat that I was telling you about. I won't be doing anything extreme, just with a spoon I'll take out the chorizo and leave the fat behind. Even though it's not that much, I just don't want my beans to be very fatty. And in a deep pot, I'm gonna add my bacon, let it cook, and most importantly, release the fat that I'll be using to fry the rest of my ingredients. Next, I'm gonna add both my onion that I diced and also my garlic. I'm gonna let them soak in all the bacon fat and saute for a little bit. And once they become translucent, I'll continue adding the rest of the ingredients one at a time. Keep an eye on your temperature. Don't let it go too hot or things will start burning up. So medium heat, but don't be afraid to lower it if you think you need to. Now I'm gonna add my roughly chopped wieners, and everything from this point on is gonna be roughly chopped. Don't worry about sizes because it should have this rustic, authentic look to it. And that mix of textures is also very nice to having different sizes of meats and the tomato and everything else. So don't worry about looks. Now I'll be adding the chorizo, which not only will bring its wonderful flavor, but also a nice red color that will show up once your dish is finished. When it comes to the ham, I'm not a big fan of thick ham. However, pork chops are a different story. They have a nicer texture and definitely a stronger pork flavor. So if that's what you're looking for, go ahead and use pork chops. And like I said, you could even use some pork shoulder. So any type of meat you use will change the flavor profile, but that's the wonderful thing about this dish. And now we'll add the tomatoes. The juice of the tomatoes is gonna help release everything that's stuck in the pot, which is just gonna introduce more flavor. And we just need to let the tomato break down and for our beans to be ready. Because once they're done, it's time to add them. I'm gonna add all the beans with all of their bean water, with the exception of the onion and the garlic cloves that I cooked them with. Give them a good mix and don't forget to scrape the bottom of the pot. Now at this point I'm going to add just a little bit of cilantro and I'm gonna let it complete so I can fish it out later. And this is optional, but you can add some pepper. I'm using jalapeño, but if you want it spicier, you can use serrano. Mix well and we'll wait until it starts to boil. When it starts boiling, I will be fishing out all the cilantro and of course giving it a taste to adjust the seasoning. And now you can turn the heat off, put a lid on your pot until you are ready to serve. When it comes to toppings, there are many options. I'm gonna go for a classic cilantro and onion, and of course some extra jalapeno slices. And now it's ready to enjoy. And here we have them, including the pinto himself. Right, Papa? I'm back. Hands washed? Let's dig in. Like I said, every state will have their own variation, including on the topics. Some people like to add onion and radishes. Some people like to add some serrano to make it extra spicy, avocado slices, pork rinds like they do in Monterrey, which I was planning to do, but I completely forgot about getting some. So I'm just adding a little bit of extra onion and cilantro, a few slices of jalapeño, and of course some freshly made tortillas, because come on, you cannot have delicious frijoles charros without tortillas. So let's dig in. Because I didn't overcook my beans, they still have a nice texture, nice firmness to them. All the meats are perfectly balanced, and the delicious bean juice, glorious. I really hope you give them a try. Like I said, this would be a perfect getaway camping meal, or just a nice cozy meal at home. So whatever you decide to do, make sure to let me know what you think. And if you enjoy this recipe, just like this video, please share it with your friends. Like, subscribe, and be notified. And for more, follow me on the socials. Adios, amigues.